And we're back on What's on Your Mind. Our next guest is a candidate for governor in Minnesota on the primary ballot. And by golly, it's coming up quick week from tomorrow already. Jeff Johnson back with us on What's on Your Mind. Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Scott?
Doing really good. Remind everybody that you're from the neighborhood here, right? You're a Western Minnesota fella.
I am. I was born and raised in Detroit Lakes. Family is still all up there, and my wife Sandy's from Crookston. We went to Concordia and Moorhead. So those are our roots. We've been down in Plymouth now for 20-some years and raised our kids down here, but we're actually up in Bemidji now and heading to Bagley for an afternoon event, and we're going to end up in Little Falls, I think, tonight. So I'm seeing the state, which is great.
How is the campaign going?
It's going extremely well. My strategy, or our strategy, Donna Bergstrom's my running mate. We go different directions every morning and hit 4, 5, 6 different events 7 days a week, and it feels good. There's a lot of momentum and energy out there, and people are starting. I'd say 2-3 weeks ago, people started really paying attention to the race, and we are feeling it as we're traveling around.
Yeah, it's kind of hard, isn't it, in the middle of summer with a primary to get people to focus because they're used to doing it in the fall, not in the summer, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, August is a terrible primary day. We need to change that. I happen to believe we should move it up to June, but it is what it is right now. And so, our job is just to make sure people know about it and make sure they're informed about the candidates. And next Tuesday, they go and vote. You can actually vote early in Minnesota. They could go to City Hall today or tomorrow and get it done and not worry about the lines.
What has most surprised you from this campaign?
Honestly, the biggest surprise has come in the last 2 to 3 weeks. I ran in a primary 4 years ago. I was the endorsed Republican candidate 4 years ago and was in a 4-way primary, and it was a very sleepy primary. We had the same strategy, but nobody was paying attention. And I'm the endorsed candidate again, and Tim Pawlenty challenging me. This one is very different, especially the last few weeks. Republicans have become very engaged, and they're doing their homework, and that has been a really pleasant surprise because I believe that informed Republicans, I will win by a decent margin, and I think more casual Republicans, Tim will probably win by a decent margin.
Jeff Johnson, a Republican endorsed candidate for governor, running against Tim Pawlenty in the primary, which is coming up a week from Tuesday. What is the top issue for Minnesotans? What is the thing that comes up first when you're having conversations about this race?
The very specific issues, I don't know that there's one on the top. Taxes are high on a lot of people's lists. We simply take too much money from people, and health care is a big concern. But what I hear a theme more often than anything else, and it is the reason I'm running, and that is the arrogance that we're seeing coming from our government, particularly our state agencies right now. You look at the DNR or the MPCA or Bowser or the Department of Education and just go right on down the list, Met Council down in the Twin Cities. And there seems to be an attitude amongst many in those agencies, not all, but many, that their job is to control and direct and help us all make better decisions about our own lives or farms or businesses. And if we don't change that culture, fundamentally change that culture from controlling to serving the people who pay their salaries, all of these other policy issues don't much matter because these bureaucracies outlast every governor and every legislator, and they know that. And if we have people from top to bottom in those organizations that understand their role is to serve, then we can make these changes on a long-term basis, these policy changes. But if we don't change, if we don't clean some house, frankly, in some of our state agencies, none of this lasts. And I hear that over and over again. Very personal to people. You talk to sportsmen about the DNR. You talk to farmers about the MPCA. You talk to child care providers about the Department of Human Services. People want some fundamental change in government right now.
So are these agencies you mentioned earlier, they sort of just outweight whoever's there? But I mean, is it a case of there's enough Democratic rule now, and you got a Democratic governor, that they're just going to push the envelope and nobody's going to challenge them? They don't have to worry about accountability, basically?
I think there's certainly some of that. I mean, we've seen that with Min-Lars and with Minsure and with the elder care abuse. There doesn't seem to be much accountability at all. But I think Minnesota isn't all that different. It's a little bit of a microcosm of the federal government, where you've got a bureaucracy that, the legislature, the governor may tell them to do something, but they can slow walk it because they know that governor and the legislators who maybe care deeply about that issue at some point are going to move on, and they might be there for 20, 30, 40 years. And I'm always careful to say we have many wonderful state employees in Minnesota. I'd say the majority of them are doing excellent, important work. But there is an element within most, if not all, of these agencies that aren't, and they need to go.
Yeah, it's just the arrogance of government more than anything, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I think that is the best possible way to put it. And it's interesting because that is kind of a bipartisan issue. I hear that from Democrats, Republicans, and everything in between. Their concern about how government is treating people, particularly some government agencies.
Yeah, and of course, the Public Utilities Commission was a prime example. When you take as long as they took to approve Line 3, that was just laughable. Yes. And there have been many other examples of that. That one specifically. So if you're governor, you got all of Dayton's appointees there. I mean, are you only able to fix that as the retirements come up on that commission, or there is a certain term there, or what happens?
I believe there are terms. I think they're 4-year terms, but I'd have to confirm that. And the law requires that they be a mix of party affiliation. So I think there has to be at least 2 Republicans, or maybe 1 Republican and at least 1 independent, something like that. It's not like I could replace everybody. I think they serve during their term, and then you replace them as time goes on. So it would take, at least a couple years to solve that problem, but we would get there. And, Line 3 is just a great example. Being up here in Bemidji, that's the top of mind right here. And trying to make the case against it is really difficult because, I understand there's some tribal issues, but it sounds like they have worked to actually avoid tribal land. But then you got the environmental issues, and that's craziness because even the PUC recognized that right now what we have is an environmental hazard, and they want to try to fix that. So it's I don't know. There are some people who just don't believe you should ever dig anything out of the ground, whether it's minerals or coal or oil. And, we just have to push back on them.
Yeah, because, of course, we'd have a Buffalo Commons. So
That's right.
And I think people hear the argument sometimes and don't really understand the consequence of what it is. It would happen if they got their way. Anything else you'd like to leave us with before we let you go?
I would just encourage people to get out and vote. If you haven't done your research on the candidates, do so. My website is johnsonforgovernor.org, and my argument is I'm a stronger candidate in November, and I'm going to bring real change to government as opposed to business as usual, and I think that's what people are looking for.
Donald Trump, popular as ever in Minnesota?
I think he is. I mean, I haven't seen a poll recently, but I think there are a lot of people who don't say out loud that they support him, but really do. And that question comes up every single reporter that talks to me asks that question because they think they're going to somehow trap me. I don't think that's true. I support him. I believe he's trying to take the country in the right direction. Doesn't mean I once in a while disagree with him, but I think he's doing a very good job, and I actually think he's going to be a benefit come November for us.
Jeff Johnson, we'll hope to talk to you one more time before the big election on the primary day a week from Tuesday. So thanks for the time today.
I'd love that, Scott. Thank you.